What's up, everybody? Hope you guys are having a great day so far. I would love to see where you guys are calling in from. So go ahead and drop your locations in the chat. We'll start in just a minute or so. I am so glad to have you guys on. So glad to have you guys here. And I'm excited to share with you about layoffs today. So this way you can make your transition to UX design. I'm gonna get my notes pulled up here. Hope you guys are warm wherever you are. I heard that it's gonna be a pretty rough winter. I'm actually in Denver, Colorado myself, so I know something about that. Let's go ahead and get this going. All right, I see some people from Barrow, Alaska. That's cool. That's cool. One of my friends lives in Alaska. Sacramento, California. That's amazing. I love Sacramento. I used to live in Fresno for about 5 years or so, and we used to go up to Sac all the time. Let's see, got Boston, Massachusetts. Awesome, awesome, loving it. Wondering if we'll get a recording later. Yes, you will get a recording if you're on this call. It is going to be recorded. Let me make sure that we have got that going on. Cool, cool. Very nice. Okay, right on. I see a Los Angeles there as well. Nice. I love LA. It's huge over there. I will say it's a little bit too big for me, but I mean, I love the space anyway. All right, let's get this on board. So I do see a New Jersey as well. Very cool. I've never actually been to New Jersey. I would like to go. So if you guys can go ahead and drop a comment down, can you see my screen? Just let me know, and then we can go ahead and get started. Right on. Perfect. Thanks, Michael. Awesome, awesome. Okay, so let's go ahead and get this kicked off. Thank you, everybody, for joining this call today. I'm really excited to have you guys here. Today, we're going to be talking about your transition to tech and all about the layoffs. So understanding that a lot of you are worried about the current job market situation, don't worry. At the end of this call, you should feel confident in your decision to become a UX designer. So today, we are going to be talking about the truth about tech layoffs, UX design, and you, and then the next steps of this entire process. And then I would love to open it up for a Q&A as well to answer any of your questions that you have. So to kick it off, I wanted to introduce myself. My name is Ronald. I am the lead designer for Moment Studio. I am a Nielsen Norman Group UX certified designer. I have 5 years of professional design experience, 10 years of business experience. I've shipped countless of design products to happy users, helped hundreds of people like yourselves transition into UX design. And just some personal facts about myself. I love to read, I love to write, and I love to learn new languages. I also love to eat, but I hate to cook. So it is very nice to meet you in the comments there. So let's learn the truth about tech layoffs. So according to MarketWatch, over 240,000 people were laid off in 2023 alone. And I know that a lot of you have been on LinkedIn, you have seen the numbers, you've seen the people who are talking about that they've been let go from their job. And that is really scary, right? We're not going to take away from that because that is real. Amazon had the largest company headcount downsize at about 27,150, followed by Meta, which is 21,000, Accenture, 19,000. Overall, we do have some companies that were laying off as many as 85% of their workforce. And there were about like 1,183 companies that actually did lay off employees, right? And so what is the reason for this? So the pandemic happened, right? It was unprecedented, everything that was going on. So a lot of people were staying at their homes. And so a lot of the funding for these digital initiatives were sort of pushed. With that, personnel were hired, people were hired to do these jobs. But afterward, when everybody started going back to work, the market conditions changed, right? And so the need for those digital products decreased and companies had to make a correction to that. Another reason for that is that due to the pandemic, inflation spiked a lot, right? And prices raised on materials, including the price of labor. We understand that during the pandemic, a lot of companies had to pay people more, as they should, but that did increase the cost of labor, and a lot of companies recognized this and made some adjustments there. And then we just have industry maturity as a whole, right? So the industry began to level out after experiencing some pretty large growth. Again, during the pandemic, people were staying home. The amount of consumption of digital products just increased a lot. And then afterward, it fell, it came back down, right? And so we are just experiencing that type of industry maturity. And overall, what you should get from that is that the tech industry grew very quickly, but it's just now correcting itself, right? Going back to where normal levels are. So according to the Securities and Exchange Commission, all those companies that laid people off, the people that they did lay off only represent about 8% of the amount of people who they hired and kept on. So Amazon increased their headcount by 743,000 in comparison to it's actually 27,000 people that they laid off, right? So if they hired 200 or 743 and they laid off 27,000, the comparison charts are just a little off. And overall, companies actually retained 20% more people than they had pre-pandemic. And so even with all of the layoffs, you do still see that people are being hired and being retained on staff. So what I want you to sort of get from that is understand that even with all of those tech layoffs and even with everything that has been happening in the tech industry, there are so many other industries that hire UX designers. It's not just tech, right? You hear that and that's what people think. But currently, think about where you work, right? Think about what industry your job is in. So healthcare, food service, retail, e-commerce, entertainment, right? The list goes on and on and on. Any website that you use, any product that you use, wherever it is that you look, every single company needs a UX designer and they hire UX designers. And so it's not just the tech industry. And so if we think about that and we think about how broad the prospects are out there for UX design and how you could be hired at a different company outside of tech, we understand that employment growth is projected to increase at 4.7 million jobs from 2022 to 2023. And so really the fastest growing industries are healthcare and social assistance at 12% growth. So are you a nurse? Are you, maybe even a doctor at some point? Do you work in healthcare? Like, what is it that you are doing right now? Followed by manufacturing, shipping, education, food and beverage, construction, stuff like that. We are going to see a 12% increase in all of that. And you should be prepared for that because those are some really exciting statistics to understand that is where UX design is going at this time. So the different companies that you can work for are endless. So if you're in healthcare UX, we have Johnson & Johnson, we have Pfizer, Walgreens, Cigna, right? We have, if you're in food service right now, you can work at McDonald's, you can work at Pepsi, you can work at Domino's. And hearing those types of people who are working in these different industries currently, working at McDonald's currently in the food service industry is definitely different than working at McDonald's as a UX designer, right? And so we understand that you can transition from where you are now into UX design into a different place, right? And so you have all sorts of different opportunities that are available to you at this time. So the thing is, you can finally start your new career as a UX designer. Like understanding all of that, it is the perfect time for you to do that. So for those of you who don't know, for those of you who are a little bit confused, or maybe you're just new to the space, you can do this. So what is UX, right? Maybe you're confused, maybe you don't know. UX design, it's the process of creating products and services that provide a positive and meaningful experience for users. You listen to what people want, you listen to why people want it, and then you just figure out how they use it, and then you design that product for them, right? So why is UX design so important to businesses? So companies with UX designers grow 2 times as fast as companies who don't have UX designers. Having a UX designer on the team means higher customer satisfaction and more brand loyalty, which leads to increased revenue, which all companies want. So companies with UX designers actually experienced a 9,900% return on investment from having UX designers on their team, fixing their products, and having those customers be retained, right? So it is very important for companies to have UX designers on their team. Why is UX design so important for users? So UX designers make a user's life easier. Having a UX designer build products means that an app or a website will be easy to use, fun, and tailored to a user's needs. If a goal conversion rate is 5 times the amount that it normally is, having a UX designer on your team will be able to help you reach that goal. We also understand that customers are retained whenever a website or a product is actually fun or good to use, right? So think about any website or any mobile app that you've ever used. So if you have used this before and you've gone through it and you're just like, why on earth is this like this? Why are you doing this? Or you've gone through the circles over and over again where you pressed a bunch of buttons and nothing has worked. That company likely does not have a UX designer on their team. And when those things happen to you, what do you feel, right? You feel frustrated. You feel upset. You feel like you don't actually want to use the product anymore. I can think of 3 companies with 3 different products that I absolutely hate using, and I know that they just don't have a UX designer on their team, or even a large team of UX designers to keep up with their products, right? And so companies need UX designers, people need UX designers, and with UX design, you can do a bunch of different things, right? So you can explore your own creativity, think in new ways, and create experiences people didn't even know that they wanted. You can design new technology, work with the latest emerging technologies, right? If you're someone who enjoys AR, VR, Web3, you can design all of that as a UX designer. So you can make a difference at any company, anywhere, using your flexible set of skills that you can go into each of these industries with, right? And so unlike a lot of professions nowadays, you do the one profession and that's it, right? You do it in this one industry and you never go anywhere else. With UX design, you're very flexible. You can go to any of the industries that we've talked about before. And with UX design, you can choose your own path, right? So you can, become a UX researcher, a UI designer, a game designer, anything related to design you can become as a UX designer, right? So I saw a question in the chat, would this also apply to UX researchers? Absolutely, right? Absolutely. And I think more than anything, it's really important to know that you have options, and UX design truly needs you in order to make the future a lot brighter. So the question might be, in this instance, especially if you are someone who is still a little bit scared about what you could be doing at this time, why should I change careers? And I think the main thing is that you can also make your life easier too as a UX designer. And so I have heard from so many people who start UX design, and really they have 3 main reasons for doing this, right? And UX design can really help with all of them. So when you become a UX designer, you can make more money. You could finally gain that financial security and even triple your salary with valuable skills. I know people who make $30,000 a year at their job, and they come into UX design and they leave with a 6-figure position, right? The difference between those changes lives. It changes families. It helps in ways that you never would have understood that it could help before. So there are also more opportunities with UX design. You can take part in thrilling new projects in industries you've never explored before. And so as a UX designer, if you decide that you want to work in tech, or you decide that you want to work in finance, or you decide that you want to go off on your own and start your own firm, you can do that because the demand for a UX designer is so high. Also, as a UX designer, you just get more freedom, right? And so a lot of people have to, commute to work, punch a clock, go through the whole process, punch out, go back, using that commute, going back home. And with UX design, you do get more freedom, right? So you can work from home or not if you decide you want to work in the office. A lot of the time, you can choose your own hours. You can work flexible hours, and you can enjoy a more flexible lifestyle so you can spend more time with your family, with your friends, or honestly, just by yourself if that's something that you're into. So I want you to know that you should not let the fear of going into UX design, or not let the fear of all of these layoffs keep you from going into UX design or keep you from living, right? And so I know that sometimes it is hard to listen to people on the other end of the screen who are in that current profession talk about it, but I want to let you know that I was exactly where you were 5 years ago, right? So I was a business administration management major. I worked in business consulting. I've worked with government contracting spaces and sales companies. I also own two sales and marketing companies myself in the government contracting space, right? And overall, I used to work 80 to 100-hour weeks. I took no time off. And honestly, my wife is my best friend, and I missed out on quality time with her because she's the coolest, right? I was making too little money for the amount of effort that I was putting in, and the amount of contributions that I made into the company did not keep up with inflation, and my salary effectively stayed the same. And honestly, I just had too many excuses. I casually looked at jobs for weeks and weeks and weeks, and this might be a story that you understand yourself, but I didn't actually do anything about it, right? I knew I needed to leave, but I was like comfortable enough where I was, and so I stayed. And in reality, I was just miserable until I became a UX designer. And now I get to actually enjoy the work that I do. And honestly, I get to help people while I do it. And so being a UX designer allows me the freedom and flexibility to sort of grow into a career that'll be around forever. It has the type of job security that with other companies I didn't actually have. And so, when we talk about layoffs and we talk about different things that are happening in tech, right? Every single job that I ever had didn't seem secure enough because there were always people who were being fired or being laid off. So there really was no type of security there. But being a UX designer, I understand, even if something happens, I can go to a different industry and be a UX designer there because everybody needs them. And honestly, this is the best career move that I have ever made. And so I understand that, you might be on this call and listening and getting really just like a little bit nervous, a little bit excited. And I get it. I get it. But if you believe in yourself, you can do it too. I promise. And so I never, talk about this without giving actionable steps because I think that's lame, to come on here and to not give you some ways that you could potentially, work at this. So actionable steps to UX design. One, you have to make a decision. So take everything that you learned from me today. Don't just listen to me. Do your own research and come to your own conclusions. And then, honestly, land on the fact that you absolutely deserve this opportunity. Just land on that fact. So, two, you want to get educated. You want to find a trusted source to get your information from and learn how to design. So we do have programs that are out there that'll help you. There are all kinds of resources available to you that you can use in order to learn the skills that you need to become a UX designer. And honestly, you want to do that because that is what's going to help you break in. Three, build a portfolio. So from all of the projects that you work on after you amass all of these different skills, you want to create case studies and combine them into one portfolio to showcase your work and finally let the world know that you are a UX designer. And lastly, get hired. So go through the interview process with all of your favorite companies, get hired with more flexibility, a higher salary, and more time freedom. And honestly, the ability to change your life forever. So I know that you might have a ton of questions in this regard about everything that we've talked about, and I would love to be able to help you answer those questions. So feel free to drop them in the chat. Any questions that you guys have about anything design related or just like related to anything that we've talked about today, I would love to be able to help you with that. And honestly, to just help you make the decision to become a UX designer and honestly, just achieve your dreams. So I'm going to check out the chat now. Feel free to drop any questions that you have. So Ariana, we had discussed this as well. Would this also apply to UX researchers? UX researcher, UX developer, UX anything is going to be the same thing. UX design, for me, especially for someone who is not necessarily interested in development or research, is the best way to go, right? There are all types of disciplines that you can do as a UX anything that will definitely help. And one of the things that I recommend is jumping into UX design first if you're not familiar, and then moving on to your different specialties, right? Because you can specialize as a UX designer in something. You can be an interaction designer. You can be a UX researcher. UX design is really the overarching process, and then everything else is kind of like a specialty of. So hopefully that helps there. So Harsh, as someone in his 30s, I'm a little scared about getting into UX design, afraid of ageism in the industry. So man, I am 31. I'm 31 years old. And so even if, I started earlier on, right, the ageism that is in a lot of different industries, and I use air quotations, understanding that there is ageism out there in UX design. It's not necessarily the same, right? And so I, like, one of the founding fathers of UX design, Jacob Nielsen, is an old dude, right? And everybody loves to hear what he has to say, because that is the type of skill set and that is the type of experience that people want to hear to understand how to do things better, right? We're just learning from the people who have been in the business before. And so that type of ageism doesn't really exist in UX design. I understand that each company has their own thoughts and opinions about, what that is. But, if that's a company that you understand that they do have those, types of ageist qualities, that would be a company that I would completely and totally avoid. But every single company that I've ever interviewed for, that I've ever worked for, had people of all varying ages on their staff. Additionally, UX design, unless you're going into a UX design agency that just has a UX designer, you'll be working with all different disciplines, right? Cross-functional teams. So you'll have developers, you'll have data scientists, you have project managers, and all of these people are going to be of all different ages, right? Most of these people in reality don't have, 20-year-olds and 25-year-olds running their entire company. There are going to be people who are older. And so I don't want you to think that there is some type of, like age requirement to be a UX designer. Again, I'm older than you, man. Or maybe you said someone in your 30s, right? So I'm 31. And so I absolutely would just go and take the chance and take the opportunity. So hopefully that helps there. So what worries me is the lack of opportunities. Even senior UXers are having a hard time finding work. So one of the things that I wanted to kind of highlight on that I've talked about is that when we talk about layoffs, really tech was the one that was impacted the most, right? And so there are other industries that are hiring UX designers, and part of my job as it pertains to helping UX designers is going on to LinkedIn and going on to Indeed and looking at the metrics for how many jobs are being posted, right? And so typically I'll be on there every day, every other day, filtering down just UX design job, and then looking at the past 24 hours. On any given day, there are anywhere between 1,000 to 3,000 new jobs that are posted. If we understand that I filter down to just like entry-level positions or even mid-level positions, right, for senior designers, that brings it down to about anywhere between, let's just say, 500 to 700. That's 500 to 700 jobs a day that you are able to apply to, that you're able to kind of, work with other people on. And so the hiring process, it is long, it is lengthy, it does take a lot, but there are tons of opportunities out there. And especially for senior UX designers, because before, even a couple of years ago, there was this large boom of UX design and everyone was relatively new. And so even 1 to 2 years of experience doesn't necessarily qualify you as like a senior designer. And so the industry, any of them, are hurting for people who understand the way that design works in relation to a business, right? And so we understand that senior designers have to think a little bit differently than junior designers do. And so all industries are hurting for it, hurting for people to be able to come over to them. So it is a competitive market, but there is no shortage of opportunities that are out there, especially just even using the one source of jobs that are out there. So absolutely go out to diversify your job boards as well. And so there are a ton. You have, LinkedIn, you have Auto. We're actually coming out with a job board and launching that just for UX design jobs here pretty soon. And so I would definitely take a look at those and make sure that those filters are set, because there are tons of opportunities that are out there. I promise. We just have to go out there. We have to find them, and then we just have to put our best foot forward on those. So awesome. Does anybody else have any questions or anything else that they'd like to add to the conversation? I mean, I'm here for you guys. I would love to be able to answer anything that you have. And if I don't know the answer to those questions, I would love to be able to point you in the right direction of where that goes. So probably give it just a couple more minutes. And if we don't have any other questions, then we can go ahead and end. So do we offer any scholarships? Yeah, we actually offer a ton of scholarships that were just renewed and updated for this year. And so if you can connect with me on LinkedIn, and I can actually drop that LinkedIn down for you. If you connect with me on LinkedIn, then I can go ahead and share some of that information with you. Scholarships are like Some of them are like 50%. Some of them are a specific dollar amount off. Some of them are 100%. So anybody who sees that link in the chat, feel free to reach out to me on LinkedIn. I am a little bit behind on my LinkedIn messages from the holidays, but please don't think that I'm ignoring you if you've tried to contact me before. But yeah, man, I would love to be able to help answer any questions that you have about that, and see what we can do for you in that regard. What other questions do we have? Comments, concerns, anything that I can help anybody with who is currently on the call? No? Okay. So it looks like we are done for today, my friends. Thank you so much for joining this call. I was really, really excited to talk to you. Again, my LinkedIn is down in the comments. I would love to connect with each and every one of you to really just talk to you and understand who you are as a person, right? And to figure out what's going on in your journey. Oh, I do have other questions. Okay. So Johan, excuse me if I'm not pronouncing that correctly. Is the portfolio more important or as important as the experience? So what I think you're asking me is your portfolio more important than the amount of time that you've put into UX design, like as a UX designer? So like say, is your portfolio more important than a designer who has like five years of experience or even 1 year of experience in that regard? My question or that answer is going to be twofold. So one, obviously every designer has to have a portfolio in order to just be kind of like showcase, right? It's an industry standard. The thing about the portfolio is that you want to set it up in a way that makes it really easy for users to understand pretty much what the project is about, what you provided as a solution, and then what the actual solution is. And so if you structure your portfolio and you structure your case studies very well, to not only like explain your process, right? We understand that you should explain your process, but really talk about the why of that process. So why did you make the decisions that you did? That is infinitely more important than just like years of experience, because I've met senior designers who can't explain why they have done something, right? Because that's just a title that, you can go to a different company and be at a different title. So who knows how many years of experience you have. But as a senior designer, I've met senior designers who might not be able to understand like why they've made the decisions that they have. Why did they position this here? Why did they make this that color? Why did they put that button on the top right hand side, and how it connects to best practices? And so really, the answer to this question would be they're both not equally as important, but they are both important to each other. It really just depends on how you carry yourself as a designer. Again, I've met senior designers who I wouldn't hire and junior designers who I would hire for senior roles. And the same thing goes with, the people who I help and the people who we teach in our program. They'll go in with no experience and then they'll come out with like senior roles because they're able to explain that process. So hopefully that helps. Ariana, but would it be better to connect on LinkedIn? Oh, no. Just go ahead and ask a question here. You can definitely connect with me on LinkedIn, and I would love to answer your questions. But feel free to drop your questions down in the chat, because someone else might have the same question too. They might be a little bit shy, might not be able to ask that question as well. So feel free to ask. Yeah, no problem, Johan, for sure. I just want to clarify if I'm on the right path. Yeah, so just ask me the question and I will absolutely like help you out with whatever question you have. And maybe, potentially even tell you if you are on the right path for you or not. Would love to answer that question for you. And anybody else, if you have any questions, feel free to drop them down. I would love to be able to answer those for you. So let's see what we have here. Okay, no other questions. Ariana, if you're still typing, feel free to do that. I would love to answer that question for you. Maybe not yet, but that's cool. Okay, so while I'm talking, I know. Okay, there we go. So is bootcamp training in conjunction with traditional schooling necessary? To answer this final question that we have here, traditional schooling is not necessary to be a UX designer. I didn't go to traditional school to be a UX designer. So like I said, I went to school for business management and marketing, which is completely different. It just helps, right? And so more and more companies are recognizing that traditional schooling is not necessarily the only way to go, especially as it gets more and more expensive. They understand that the bar for that is going to be a little bit higher than it has been in previous years. And so, and you could say that I am biased, but I have taken a boot camp before to understand more about what it is that I'm learning about UX design. Because when I go in hard, and I want to know. I've taken a couple different boot camps to understand, and so when we talk about schooling, in my professional opinion, in my personal opinion, because I've done it before, I would just do a boot camp. It costs significantly less a lot of the time than traditional schooling. It is significantly less time that you have to put in than traditional schooling. And you'll be able to learn a bunch of information in a short period of time. So the time that it would take for you to get into your position is going to be shorter. And so my recommendation for anyone on this call is, if you are curious, if you're interested, if you're serious about UX design, take a bootcamp first, because that is going to help you get the necessary skills that you need to even start. If you decide later on down the line, I have met people who get into UX design, they have careers, and then they want to go get their, master's in human computer interaction. Hey, do that. Absolutely, 100%. But my recommendation is to start with a boot camp. Start with a boot camp or two. Start with those types of things, and then, if you want to do traditional schooling later, absolutely do it. But no, it is not necessary at all. So hopefully that answers your question. Thank you so much, everybody, for joining this call today. I really appreciate it. We are out of time here today, but again, I would love to connect with you on LinkedIn. So feel free, drop that connection request, and I can go ahead and get that down. Just something connection request. Very cool. Very cool. Awesome, my friends. It has been so great meeting you. So great speaking with you today. And I hope that I can inspire you to take control of your lives and really do what you want to do and become UX designers. And so again, thank you for joining me on this call here today, and I will talk to you soon. Have a great day, everyone.